as it pertains to Ukraine and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which some big things have happened, we'll get into. Karoline Leavitt cannot hide from two aspects of this. And I want to talk about that. And she keeps being asked similar questions and giving the same answer because she just can't really find a way to logically explain her way out of this. But some important context before showing you the Levit clips. First, remember what Trump was saying to Zelensky, because that gets into the second point. The new event in this war really disproves what he kept repeating, which was
of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
Playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
What do you think
You're gambling with.
Now the whole "you don't have any cards" thing. Hold that. But because I went to go look for that clip, I stumbled back across this one, and I need to suffer through it one more time.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay?
Since that clip, Russia has violated not ceasefires, but partial ceasefires numerous times. So it's not as outrageous of a question as Trump made it out to be. But final bit of context for the Levit piece. With Russia airfield attacks, New York Times reports, Ukraine aims for strategic and symbolic blow. And this is a major development in the war, where Ukraine's drone attacks on airfields deep inside Russia on Sunday were strategic and symbolic blows that military analysts said were designed to slow Moscow's bombing campaigns. After more than a year of planning, Ukraine was able to plant drones on Russian soil just miles away from military bases. Then in a coordinated operation on Sunday, Ukrainian drones attacked 5 different regions in Russia. Some were launched from containers attached to semis, their flights captured on videos verified by the New York Times. Plumes of smoke billowed above one base. At another, strategic bombers were hit. And you'll hear Fox News analyst Britt Hume have to admit this is a huge win, a huge blow to Russia, and disproves Trump's whole "you don't have any cards" thing.
Let's start with that attack pulled off by the Ukrainians. The AP says this undertaking by Ukraine's security service, codenamed Spiderweb, involved more than 18 months of painstaking planning and great risk. Outnumbered, outgunned, and dependent on Western partners, Ukrainian military planners have sought innovative and cost-effective means to exact Russian losses, often leaning in on the element of surprise. And Britt, this is a big embarrassment for the Russians as well, along with the losses.
Yeah, it certainly does establish that this country, whose president was being told at the White House that he didn't have any cards to play, that he apparently has quite a few cards to play, including this daring attack, which, you know, if the Ukrainians can be believed, wiped out about 30 to 40% of Russia's strategic bombing force. That's
insane. That's insane.
A major setback for Russia. It is an embarrassing intelligence failure and an embarrassing defense failure. And who knows what else the Ukrainians, who have proved pretty ingenious, may have up their sleeves.
Yeah. So you saw some of the video on screen there, but that was a part of, not only did this happen, but there's now video evidence of it. And it is an embarrassment and proof that Trump's, as much as we all want long-lasting, forever peace here, Trump's argument that, well, number one, that Ukraine is the impediment to peace, that's long been disproven, obviously. And number two, that Ukraine isn't powerfully defending itself is kind of what he tries to articulate, to perpetuate an idea that is bolstering a Russian narrative about this invasion of theirs. No, they have done some unbelievable things in the face of a much larger country invading them and failing miserably at their military objectives, being Russia. So I reference Karoline Leavitt would like to hide from the fact, but she can't, that Trump's two major points about this that he keeps repeating, which is number one, he was going to end the war perfectly. That didn't happen because he didn't understand how much Putin was the impediment to peace, obviously. And number two, that idea that Zelensky, you don't have any cards or you don't have any place to be demanding a fair ceasefire, essentially, a fair peace agreement. You can't be demanding that because you don't have any cards. That just got completely disproven. So she just perpetuates the same both sides nonsense.
But as for how the president feels about those talks and what took place there, I'll let him speak on that.
What's the president's reaction to that Ukrainian drone attack, stunning drone attack on Russian air bases? I'm sure he saw that. What's his reaction?
Well, look, the reaction is this war needs to come to an end. And this war has been brutal from both sides. Too many people have died. And the president wants this war to end at the negotiating table. And he's made that very clear to both leaders, both publicly and privately.
Yeah, and that led to headlines like Karoline Leavitt literally does a both sides on Russia's war in Ukraine. And some of the context there is that a lot of MAGA is upset by this because they're saying, oh, how dare Ukraine strike within Russia, even though it was very strategic against military objectives. It accomplished the goal and it devastated their ability to continue this bombing campaign to the extent that they were. But what do you think Ukraine should do in the meantime? Trump, you said to Zelensky, I'm going to get peace lickety split, and it's not going to be some insane agreement that only benefits Putin and allows him to further invade. And then he wasn't able to do that. So in the meantime, Ukraine's just supposed to sit on their hands and be attacked and bombed every single day and not try to stop it at all? Then again, this keeps coming up for Levit.
Thank you. Same topic, just to put a finer point on it. Does President Trump approve of Ukraine's decision to strike nuclear-capable bombers in Russia?
I would like to let the president speak on that himself.
And just to follow up, has the president...
I would just add to that, the president does not want to see this war prolonged. He wants the fighting to stop, he wants people to stop dying, and he wants this to be solved at the negotiating table. The reason he is so deeply involved and has spent so much time and effort on this war is because he hates to see people dying.
And we all do, which is why we're honest enough to admit who is prolonging it. You don't even just do the phenomenon of both sidesism when it's dishonest. You literally say both sides over and over. Both sides need to de-escalate. Ukraine keeps saying, we agree to this ceasefire, we agree to that, we agree to this, no conditions. Yes, peace, 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 peace. And Putin goes, now. One more.
On Ukraine, it's been a couple days since Ukraine made that audacious drone strike on Russian airfields. The president hasn't said a word about it, and usually he's not shy about making his thoughts known on the war. Or, it's not bad. On the war or any other subject. What have you heard from him on this audacious drone strike? Is he surprised? He said that Zelensky didn't have the cards when they met in the Oval Office a few months back. Does Zelensky possibly have some cards that the president hadn't known about?
Look, the president's thinking on the Russia-Ukraine war as it stands, I spoke to him about it just this morning, is he...
Every time she runs away from the question. Apparently, Trump's so petrified of Putin that he's not wanting to give a take on this massive development in the war. And then Levit every time goes, well, he just wants to see it over. Well, yeah, but how? Because I would say weakening Russia through a military action like this is, while you could definitely make the argument there's an escalatory element to it, if Ukraine doesn't provide powerful pushback, then Putin's going to continue being, as I've said so many times, encouraged in this endeavor.
He remains positive at the progress that we've seen.
Oh, by the way, click the subscribe button if you haven't, of course.
And again, he urged both leaders to sit down and talk directly with one another, and they did that. Russia handed over a memorandum of peace, or a peace plan, or a suggestion of one, I understand, to the Ukrainian side. They also agreed upon the exchange of prisoners or hostages from each other's countries. So he remains positive about the progress that we're seeing, but he also is a realist, and he realizes these are two countries that are at war and have been for a long time because of his predecessor's weakness and incompetence. So he's working hard to solve this conflict, and that's where...
You know how lately the whole slogan of the show has been like politics and laughter, like we do both. Yay, we have fun. It doesn't have to be all so angry. You know how I feel? I want to give a yes, that's how I feel. That's how I feel every time. It's so impressive. I really don't like Alex Jones, but man, that was impressive. She says, we see progress because Putin laid out a peace agreement, which was a huge spit in the face. The thing he laid out was just give me everything I've asked for before that would only exacerbate further conflict. Just let me tell you for certain, okay? So he didn't do anything good. If there is a prisoner exchange, that could be good. But then goes on to say, we do understand these two countries, not like one's invading the other. These two countries have been at war. They love being at a war. And that's all because of Trump's predecessor's weakness. It's so upsetting. It's so upsetting because has that not been so disproven now? Because you said he was weak, which is why he couldn't end it, which is why Trump could, but then Trump couldn't. And you all are kind of admitting that you're about to give up in 2 weeks. Or you're going to have a peace plan in 2 weeks, 6 weeks ago. But now Trump not being able to end it in a lasting, fair way, right, is proof that no, it couldn't have been a Joe Biden problem. I mean, it's mind-bending. She won't address the question over and over again on either will you admit that maybe you had it wrong, that any other reason other than Putin was the cause of this, and number two, won't address the strike against these planes and against these military objectives, won't address that, and it's just, let me keep reciting vile pro-Russian talking points. It's pretty terrible stuff. One thing I do want to call out that I've been meaning to, Kaylin Robb on X posted this. Europe is paying for Russia's invasion of Ukraine because they are addicted to cheap Russian gas and intoxicated on the fumes. They've had 3 years and done nothing to find alternative energy. Utterly disgusting. And it shows just how much Russia is making from this. And that does then allow for them to fund this war. Russian fossil fuel revenue outstrips aid to Ukraine. Amounts received by Russia in fossil fuel revenue and by Ukraine allocated aid is compared there, and you can see this is something that needs to come up more, that Europe needs to be more aggressive about cutting this off, even if it is going to cause them economic pain. But if these politicians and if the citizens believe what they purportedly believe about Russia's invasion and how it threatens all of Europe, then they need to take every step possible. Tell me your thoughts in the comments.